Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into some pretty ancient wisdom. We're looking at chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita,
That's right.
exploring the path of karma yoga. Our goal here is really to pull out the key insights from, the sources you've provided, your notes. Research basically give you a shortcut to understanding this important philosophy.
And it really is foundational. The Bhagavad Gita, it's often called the world's most widely read, authentic edition. And it gives such practical guidance.
Yeah.
Chapter 3, Karma Yoga, specifically, it really zooms in on action, duty, and how doing these things can actually lead to liberation, not more entanglement.
Okay, so it kicks off with this dilemma, right? Arjuna's confusion. And I think honestly, a lot of us can probably relate. He's just heard in chapter 2 all about the soul, how it transcends stuff, and how intelligence is better than fruit of work.
Right. Action for results.
Exactly. So he asks Krishna point blank, why are you urging me into this terrible war if you think intelligence is better than work? It feels a bit contradictory, doesn't it?
It really does, on the surface.
Like, if knowing is so great, why get your hands dirty?
It's a brilliant question, actually. And Krishna's answer really clarifies what might seem like, mixed messages. He basically says, it's not about stopping action. That's not the point.
Okay.
The sources are clear. No one can remain inactive, even for a moment. We're all pushed to act by these forces, the gunas modes of nature, like passion, goodness, ignorance. They're always operating.
So you can't just sit still and do nothing.
Well, you can try externally, but if your mind is still thinking about sense objects' desires, then the Gita calls that false detachment. It's like hypocrisy.
Oh.
But true renunciation isn't stopping the action itself. It's about performing action with the right consciousness.
Yeah.
With detachment.
Okay, let's unpack that. So it's not if you act, but how. This is where it gets really interesting, I think, with nishkama karma, selfless action.
Exactly.
Your sources quote that really powerful verse. You have a right to perform your prescribed duties, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions.
That sounds tough, especially today. So what does that actually mean for you listening?
Nishkama karma means essentially doing your duty, doing your work wholeheartedly, but without being hooked on the specific outcome.
Like not worrying about the promotion or the grade
or the praise, or even avoiding the blame. You pour yourself into the process, into doing it well as an offering, but you let go of that anxious grip on the results. This actually transforms work. Instead of tying you up in knots about success or failure, it becomes a path to freedom. By giving up the fruits, the action stops creating binding karma. It kind of neutralizes your karmic debt, you could say.
So it brings peace,
Yeah.
less anxiety.
Absolutely, a deep inner peace, because your stability doesn't depend on what happens externally. And when action is done this way as a selfless offering, it's called yajna. It elevates the work itself. That makes a lot of sense, but it still sounds hard. Because, we have these impulses, we want things. Arjuna asks about this too, right? He says, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force?
Yes. We've all felt that, haven't we? Like
Yeah.
something pushes us against our better judgment.
Totally.
And Krishna gives this profound answer. He identifies the enemy. It's kama.
Lust.
Well, it means lust, but also just insatiable desire, craving in general. It's born of contact with the material modes of passion. And when that desire is frustrated, it turns into krodha-wrath, anger. Krishna calls it the all-devouring sinful enemy. And where does it live? In the senses, the mind, and the intelligence. It basically throws a veil over our real knowledge.
Wow. Okay, so if that's the enemy within, how do we actually fight it? How do you deal with that?
Krishna gives a very practical roadmap. He lays out a kind of hierarchy within ourselves. He says, the working senses are superior to dull matter, like the physical objects they perceive. The mind is higher than the senses. Then intelligence is still higher than the mind.
Right.
And the soul, your actual self, is even higher than the intelligence.
So there's a ladder, sort of?
Exactly. And the key is to control the lower self by the higher self. You use your intelligence, guided by understanding your true spiritual nature, your soul, to regulate the mind and the senses.
So use your reason and your connection to your deeper self to manage those immediate urges.
Precisely. It's about engaging your spiritual strength
Yep.
to conquer that impulsive desire, that kama. It's presented as a very practical, step-by-step path to mastering yourself from the inside out.
So wrapping this up a bit, what's the big takeaway for us today from chapter 3? It seems the Gita offers this really timeless wisdom.
Definitely.
It makes it clear that, look, action is unavoidable, you have to act. But real freedom comes from how you act with detachment, nishkama karma, making your work and offering a yajna. And also that getting a handle on that internal enemy, that insatiable desire or kama, is just crucial for finding any kind of real inner peace.
That's a great summary. And this focus in Chapter 3 on karma yoga, on how to act without getting tangled up, it really sets the stage for understanding even more.
How so?
Well, while this chapter tells us how to act wisely, the Gita also goes deeper into the source of the knowledge that empowers this kind of action. Where does this understanding come from?
Interesting. Okay, so maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If acting selflessly like this and conquering those internal drives is the way to freedom, what kind of knowledge actually empowers us to live like that, day in, day out in our modern world? What fuels that kind of conscious living?
Something to think about.
Definitely. We'll leave you with that until our next deep dive.